the Friday Hardwood. There are no days off here at Run Pure Sports. I'm JT Hayes. If you haven't already joined us, first of all, hit the like button. Let's not forget about hitting the like button. Do that. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And the new code is Giblets44 for 44% off of your first month's or week's payment. We've got a enticing 8-game slate here. NBA slate for the day after Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you who celebrate that, which I think would be all of you. We're in a good mood here. We've got Gangsta Pooh in the house with the backwards hat. Wanted to show him off. He has had a good day. He hasn't been attacked yet. I'm going to choose my words very, very wisely here. AP, the Jets, the Dolphins. I got this on. I never get to wear this. I got this Jets sweatshirt as a gift a few years ago. I'm a huge fan right now, particularly of Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, maybe Tyler Conklin as well. I don't necessarily want a touchdown from them, but I do want more Dolphins points and maybe some yards from the Jets skill position players. But we got an 8-game slate here in the NBA. There's some injury news. Giannis, questionable, maybe the biggest play on the slate, the biggest news on the slate, because obviously that's going to open up a lot against the Washington Wizards, who just give up a ton of real-life points and a ton of fantasy points. We got the people in the chat here rooting us on. Thank you, guys. Very nice. Thank you, Daniel Maroff. AP, how is your Friday going? How was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's going good. We got an interesting game, obviously, with the Dolphins and Jets. I mean, why not just play Zach Wilson? This dude looks so bad behind him. I don't know, man. I don't know anymore. But what I do know is we got a nice start to the NBA betting streets. I was on Orlando Magic's side, and then I ended up I didn't post it on the sheet, so I can't take credit for it. But I asked Jaime, our guy Jaime. We put a little money line bet in too, so they are handling the Celtics right now. Orlando, I mean, you gotta appreciate what they're doing. So you love to see that. Our organization has been a disaster, and they're starting to turn it around. So it would be funny to see the Hornets. The Hornets, like, that organization is so bad. I don't even know if they'll ever be able to turn it around. Who knows? But you gotta love seeing the Magic. Finally, it looks like they're headed in the right direction. But JTAs, I mean, congrats to you. You were a live sweat last night to chop, for $500,000. And, me and my family, and, I was trying to explain to them how all this works, because a lot of them still don't understand, like, what I do. It's kind of funny. But all of them wanted to set up accounts today. All of them they're like, how do I set up an account? Put money in. I'm like, don't bother me. Don't bother. Sign up at Run Pure Sports, Giblets44, if you want to sign up. But no, congrats to you, JT Hayes. Awesome build yesterday. And what a sweat, man. What an absolute sweat.
Yeah, it was a good sweat. I looked at halftime and I was like, ooh, let me take a look at what this lineup is. And I'm like, okay. And there was a guy that had the same lineup as I, that had Debo and the Niners left, along with McCaffrey. Everybody in front of us had Christian McCaffrey, and it got real close. We settled for a chop a second, Travis. It was a good Thanksgiving. Always wild sweating out your skill position players and your defense, because you're like, okay, I kind of need the other team to score. I know it's going to drop me a little bit, but then they can chase back. And like I said, real close. Thank you, guys. Thank you. One of the best things all the way going back to your daily playbook, AP, has been when you got a sweat, when you've got a team that's live, the Discord, the community just pops off and gets behind you. It's one of the best things about Run Pure Sports. Travis, you had a nice night yourself in the showdown streets. How was your Thanksgiving? How is your Friday going?
Yeah, things are good. The Thanksgiving was fun. I had a nice little sweat, but what can you do? It didn't get there. I'll save my Run Pure, I guess, for this Sunday is the plan. But overall, good day too as well. Ready to dive in. We got college football today. We got the Jets and the Dolphins on. So got that on the other screen while we talk about the NBA, which should be a fun night in the NBA. I'm excited to break it all down. And JT, I was rooting you on too. I was excited for you. Rubio sent me a text saying that you were live, and I was like, oh, I got to start sweating this out. So I was sweating it out, rooting you home. And only bad news is I think you wasted your Run Pure on your buddy Winnie the Pooh over there to be saved from Quinn instead of for yourself. So next time, save the Run Pure for yourself, JT.
Yeah, it's been a good day for Pooh so far. But again, dinner time is coming soon. It's usually after dinner that Quinn likes to get her energy out on poor Pooh. But he's dressed like a gangster today, so we'll see. But we'll get into this slate. Go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't already done that. And like we said, Giblets 44. That is the code to save 44% off. That's not going to be around for very long. That may be, who knows, maybe done by the end of tonight, maybe done by the end of the weekend. So go ahead and get in there before this NFL Sunday. We are going to have core plays. We're going to have live shows. We'll start out early in the morning at 9 a.m. And then the morning wood, of course, as always on Sunday. But AP, we'll get into the slate. 7:30 start time here for this day after Thanksgiving NBA slate, 7:30 on the East Coast. First game, not exactly a banger here. Miami at the Knicks. Knicks favored by 5. 212 is the total. Bam Adebayo is going to be playing in this one, as is Kevin Love. Duncan Robinson is going to miss this game, and that is kind of big news because of the minutes that he's been playing since the Tyler Herro injury, maybe opening up some more minutes for a guy like Caleb Martin. What do you see here, Miami at the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, this slate, the slate's going to be a ton of fun tonight. And, first off, kind of a little slate overview, too. Hopefully people are slacking. Hopefully they got that little hangover going on because I feel like we're dialed. I feel very good. I feel very comfortable about this slate. And there's going to be a pretty good edge is what I'm seeing. So this first game, 211 total. Miami Heat, Knicks. Rarely ever do I get too excited about this type of matchup, but still, with the injuries here, it should open up, quite a bit. I do have Caleb Martin at 4K. I'm expecting a pretty big role from him tonight. They're going to need his minutes. He really shined down the stretch last season too, a guy that they really relied on, especially in the playoffs and, they're in the finals too. So Caleb Martin 4K is definitely my favorite play in this game. I think he's going to make for really good value. And then like Jimmy Butler, like in tournaments, if he wants to put up a big number and if he's motivated, he can always get there. So how do I handle that situation in multi-entry formats? I keep him in my player pool. I typically find myself in line, maybe slightly under or slightly over the field on a guy like Jimmy Butler, because you just never know the motivational factors there. And that's what he needs. That's what Jimmy Butler needs to really get it going. The Knicks side, definitely a little bit more, easy. Obviously, this is overall a pace down matchup. I just have my rules that I keep in place. It's Brunson or Randall, and then the peripheral pieces or secondary pieces like RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, with DiVincenzo and Hart with their increasing roles kind of off the bench there. I have less interest in some of those peripheral pieces. So I don't think I'm going to have too much of the Knicks side of this game.
Travis, Miami heading into New York. As far as Jimmy Butler, it's true. He's been in great spots. He was in a great spot the other night without Bam Adebayo. Didn't do a whole lot against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here, at least the game is in the Garden. So the game is in New York. I don't know if that's going to motivate him, but Jalen Brunson at 8,200, given how he's been playing, he looks maybe a little bit too cheap for the matchup going against Kyle Lowry defense. And Randall's price has come down to 8,700. And then you have the increased minutes for guys like Caleb Martin. What are you thinking about here, Miami at the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to like this game, right? Like it's not an amazing one, but I think there's good plays for sure. It's not like the game that we're just going to stack up and be all over, but we like it. I think the Heat side of the ball, I agree with the Caleb Martin take. I think he's definitely in play. Jimmy Butler, I don't mind him in this spot as a spend up. It just depends if you want to use him as a spend. There's other options that I think I prefer a little more, but he's in my conversation, right? He's in my player pool. I'll say that. But the Knicks, that's the spot where I'm just kind of like torn on like what to do with them. I think they're just an X for me though. Like RJ Barrett 6'2", Brunson 8'2", Randall 8'7". In a Miami Heat matchup, this just doesn't seem ideal to me. So I'm out on the Knicks completely. If I had to rank them, the value play is definitely Caleb Martin, I would say. And then I'd say it's Jimmy Butler as the spend up right now. So, and this game isn't like one of those games you want to jam in there. It's one of the early games, starts at 7:30 Eastern, and then we have Chicago-Toronto, who we'll get to. And Chicago-Toronto is not currently a game I absolutely love. It depends on the Zach LaVine news, but my point being is, yes, this game is fine, but you might have some extra roster flexibility, and it might be nice to, because this is a slate where there's tons of news that we are still kind of waiting on, right? Like, for instance, the Giannis news could come. And if Giannis ends up being ruled out, that's a big deal. If Tyrese Halliburton's ruled out, well, that's a pretty big deal. So there's a lot of things that we are kind of waiting on here that could affect some of my decision-making for this slate.
No doubt, big news to come later on in the slate. Beginning with this game, well, not really. I guess, yes, this game, Chicago in Toronto. Toronto favored by 5.5, 216.5 total. LaVine and Kobe White, both questionable here. Kobe White with an ankle. Precious Achiuwa, questionable for the Raptors, as well as Thad Young. Christian Koloko remains out. Travis, this game, the Chicago Bulls, DeMar DeRozan has played well when he's returned to play against the Toronto Raptors. He is just 7,300 on DraftKings. If LaVine is out, he seems like maybe a priority play, although, again, a better matchup than when they played the Thunder with LaVine out. If Kobe White is out, then maybe we're looking at Alex Caruso as the primary ball handler for the Bulls. Who do you like here? Chicago in Toronto.
Yeah. So for one, I don't know exactly what happens with, like, I know Caruso's kind of the ball handler, but in a way it'd be more, the offense will still go through DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic. I'll at least say that. I think at 4.8, Caruso is fine. Not in love with him. Kobe White at 5.6. He could obviously have upside. Zach LaVine news is huge, because let's say Zach LaVine is in, right? If he's in, I'm just not rostering any of these guys. Basically. I'm out on these Bulls. If he's out, Vucevic at 7.6, definitely in the conversation in this matchup here. Don't think you could argue against that. He would definitely be in play. And DeRozan at 7.3, I mean, both these guys, you feel like they're like floor and ceiling combinations, just really good, where it's hard to argue with them. It's also a little bit of a DeMar DeRozan revenge game, right? He likes playing Toronto too. This game is in Toronto as well, and he played there for so long in his career. I know it feels like a while ago, but it's still a place that he called home for sure. So I think he likes to get up for those games. So those two would definitely be in the conversation for me as these mid-tier plays that have the ability to get 50 DK points. And at that price, in that 7K range, that's a big deal to be able to get that. So I think those two guys are going to be options that when I run my MME stuff, I'm expecting I'll get exposure to. If I'm not getting exposure to it, I'm going to wonder, well, what's the reason? I'm going to look and see maybe there's other value plays that are pushing some other studs. But I think overall, if LaVine's out, you are going to want to get exposure in your MME and even single entry and 3-max to Vucevic and DeRozan. Maybe in single entry, you don't have to, but my point is they're going to grade out as good plays. So I would like them. So it'd be Vucevic and DeRozan. I'd probably lean DeRozan over Vucevic. And then when it comes to the cheap options, I'd probably lean with Alex Caruso as the number one option that I would go to, followed by, I guess, Kobe White. You could make an argument for Patrick Williams for cheap at 3.6, mainly because that 3.6 price tag is just so cheap. The value it might provide for your lineup could be good, where I could see it kind of leaping a Caruso possibly. So yeah, I think that's my overall takes on how to handle Chicago. The Toronto side, I mean, it's definitely a good matchup. We're not worried about Vucevic at the rim protection. You can make a really good case for someone like Scotty Barnes here, or not Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam in this spot at 8.2K. He's definitely been playing a lot better. I kind of said I wanted to wait and see with him, and been doing that all year. And I played him a little bit recently. I think I'm willing to go back to the well here in this matchup against Chicago. Just it'll be an easy matchup for him, and they need his size as well. So I think it's a pretty good spot for someone like Pascal Siakam. And you could also see Jakob Poeltl maybe lose his minutes if they go a little bit smaller against the Chicago Bulls team.
Definitely concerned about Jakob Poeltl, AP. Obviously, the news here, LaVine and White both questionable. On the Toronto side, Pascal Siakam at 8,200 still seems a little bit too cheap. His play has been getting better of late. And then, look, Scotty Barnes, I think he's 8,700 on DraftKings. He's just been crushing more often than not. This is a pretty soft matchup for opposing guards, forwards. What do you like here in Chicago, Toronto?
Yeah, so Levine questionable, but he did make shoot around. So I guess I'm working under the assumption that he's going to play. Obviously, we'll have that information before the slate locks up, so not a huge concern. And I think one like advantageous thing is going to be if we don't get this Giannis news and some of the other news on the slate, Halliburton, Giannis being two key pieces. I would prioritize waiting. Like I would definitely fade mid-range or upper-range studs from the Bulls, Raptors to prioritize getting that news. Even if those guys play, there's like you can play Kyle Kuzma over DeMar DeRozan or Levine. Like Kuzma in this matchup has been extremely good. So what I'm saying is there are options. Like I'm not going to force the issue with anyone on either side of this game. So it's really kind of a sit and wait and see. And so Levine 7-4, DeRozan 7-3. It's just another spot too. And then Vucevic 7-6, where I just implement my rule no more than one of any of those guys in this matchup. That's kind of how I've been handling the Bulls all season, and it's worked out pretty good for me. You do have to keep an eye on Kobe White. Obviously, that is the guy that we do have to keep an eye on. So I think I'm on the same page as Mangone. I think you play Caruso. If Kobe White is out, you got to think it's more of like a minutes play too. Caruso, really good defender. You're really looking for steals and blocks. The peripheral stat upside from him. He's not going to be like a true offensive like juggernaut type of play. So, and then on the other side, it's my other rule is like Scotty Barnes or Pascal Siakam. So that's another rule that I'm going to put out there. I'm not really excited. Like I'm not crazy about it because I think there's some other spots, but the price tags are fair. The price tags on both those guys are fair. So if I land on them in tournaments, I'm definitely fine with it.
Definitely depends how news breaks in terms of how you are going to approach that game. And there is some big news, AP, in the next game. Detroit heading over to Indianapolis to take on the Indiana Pacers. Indy favored by 7.5, 243.5 total. Looks like Vegas has heard you or got tired of losing money on these Indy overs, but I don't even think 243.5 has been high enough for many of their games. The news here, Bojan Bogdanovic remains out, as does Joe Harris for Detroit. Jalen Duren is off of his injury, but there may be a minutes restriction. And then big news here on the Indianapolis side, on the Indiana side, I should say. Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, and Aaron Nesmith, all questionable. Now that could mean that you're going to get Buddy Hield as a starter. It could mean that you're going to get others in play. How are you approaching this game? It seems like Halliburton has been questionable a few times here over the past couple of weeks, has always suited up. It's a sprained right wrist.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last two games his wrist looked fine. So it is a concern because I haven't seen any or watched anything to where he would have gotten hurt. So it seems like a spot where they're maybe making up an injury and whatever to give him some rest. So my rule about the Pacers, it's an auto bet to the over, except in certain matchups like the Bulls or the Heat, or if Halliburton's sitting. So this total actually was like in the 250s. Opened I think 250, 250.5, something like that. I was looking yesterday, and it's dropped significantly. That I think is pretty telling. I think Vegas understands what's up. They know the impact that Tyrese Halliburton has on the over-under here. I mean, the guy pushes the pace. He's so good at offensively. He's so good at getting, his other players involved. The guy, he's special. He's like such a good player, so fun to watch. And so I think he sits. And I think, and again, we're speculating right now, but I do think you want to be prepared for if Halliburton sits. I think they could do a bunch of different things here. And I'm not they could start TJ McConnell. I don't think that's like a lock. They could start Benny Mack with Buddy Hield and Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown ran point for the Pistons, 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, any of those guys can ball handle. So this is a true spot for me. I want to sit, wait for the news, and I want to see the starting lineup. Rick Carlisle, I'm done trying to predict what he is going to do. I mean, he is who knows what he's going to do. But I do want to know who those starters are. And maybe it doesn't even matter. I tweeted out a couple days ago, it was Obi Toppin. Whenever he got the start, he was playing 18, 19 minutes. Then he came off the bench. What happens? He plays 33. Why? Who knows? Who freaking knows, man? But this is a pace-up spot for the Pistons. Jalen Duren in. And again, you got to think he's going to be on some type of restriction, but we need that news. If he is, the Pacers play with so much pace to where I think there's other better center spots, but like a Marvin Bagley, they're just so bad defensively. You could see a guy like that go off. So I think in 150 formats, anything is in play here. I think if you're playing single entry 3 max, a safer route is looking at Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey. The price tags are fair on both of them. They should have a nice role here as well, and a really good spot against the Pacers.
Travis, AP mentioned Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham. I kind of like Osar Thompson, 6,800. He's coming off a couple of down games. For a young, athletic kid going up against this Indiana team, could be a really, really good spot for him. Probably be a lot of rebounds available as well. And look, AP covered the news here. If Halliburton's out, the total dropping, Vegas obviously seems to think that he is going to miss here. But I think you kind of need Nesmith and Nembhard to also miss in order to have real clarity on what this rotation looks like. What are your thoughts on Pistons-Pacers?
Yeah, Pistons-Pacers is definitely a game that we have to have some interest in here, right? The Pacers, we need the news. It's really hard to, give any analysis on it, right? I mean, obviously, if Halliburton is out, we're going to have some interest in players. I don't have really much interest in Halliburton at 11K. I know he's been phenomenal. I just think there's other studs that I'd rather spend on, unless you have just an unlimited amount of value, which is certainly possible, especially if someone like Giannis was ruled out. But if Giannis was ruled out, you also like Damian Lillard then, who's at that point guard position. You would also like some of these other options that are value plays that you just can't totally ignore. So overall, I just think I'm not going to get the Halliburton today. I'm hoping he's I actually don't care if he's in or out. I'll just say that. I think Buddy Hield, 5.5K. He's a good play regardless. If you do get Halliburton out, I really just want to see the starters. Rick Carlisle can do some really just goofy stuff. So I just need to wait and see the starters, get in the Discord, right? That's kind of one of the things that's a struggle with dealing with this Pacers team overall. So next thing up I'll talk about is the Pistons. Pistons, Cade Cunningham at 7.8 is too cheap of a price tag for a matchup like this. The ceiling is just too good there. So I'm definitely considering Cade Cunningham, definitely someone that's in my player pool. Jaden Ivey, I like him in this spot too. I think the upside is there. This is a matchup that if Jaden Ivey was going to have an explosive game, who would be the teams? You'd say Washington Wizards are on the list. You'd say Indiana Pacers. This is definitely a spot where Jaden Ivey can hit his ceiling. So I like getting exposure to him. Also, our guy Bobby Heron puts out his early core on Twitter every day. He's got this troll that always makes fun of him and says his plays suck. Well, Jaden Ivey was the guy that the troll made fun of, and then the guy goes off. So, put that into your model accordingly. It's always fun to see what play he wants to shit on, but Jaden Ivey definitely in the conversation for me as a pretty good play because that matchup is just too good. Thompson at 6.8, I just don't love the price tag. I understand the matchup and everything. I just don't think I will get to him too much. And then, we've seen Jalen Duren explode, right? This is a matchup. It could happen at low ownership, and the price is right. So on the Pistons side, I'd say it's really Cade Cunningham, Ivey, and Duren as the tournament plays I'm looking at. On the Pacers side of the ball, it's really just a wait-and-see approach until I know the Halliburton news.
All right, and the other challenging thing about the Pacers is you're going to probably – I hope we get the news early, but it may not come until 30 minutes. It may come a little bit later than that with the way – that they have been releasing their injury reports. But we'll move on to the next game. And this is one of the games that I think is a little tougher here. There is maybe some plays here just because of the injury to Keegan Murray on the Sacramento side. Sacramento at Minnesota. Minnesota favored by 4, 229.5. Keon Ellis and Murray are out. The Timberwolves team is fully healthy, but Karl Anthony Towns has been playing some very, very good basketball of late. Both he and Anthony Edwards are seemingly priced very cheaply. Travis, what is your interest here, Sacramento and Mini?
Yeah, I definitely have some interest in this game. And I know I talked about not like saying I didn't like Jimmy Butler. I thought Jimmy Butler's fine. But like there's a guy in this range that I like a lot, and it's Ant Edwards. I think this is a really good matchup for Ant Edwards against this Sacramento Kings team. One thing I like too about this Sacramento Kings team is I think Sacramento can keep this game close enough where I like this spot a lot for him. So I think Ant is going to be able to be in a nice competitive game. I like his upside at 8.7K. So I'm definitely interested in him. I'm not super interested in many Sacramento Kings because the price is just, too damn high, right? If you look at De'Aaron Fox, 9.8, I just don't see myself getting there right now. I know what his upside can be. I don't think it's right on this slate specifically. I think some of these other mid-tier options they have are too high. Sabonis at 10-2, not that interested in him. It's really just the Minnesota side of the ball. And Rudy Gobert at 6'9", I actually think he's in play a little bit. I think there's other centers I prefer, but he's in the conversation. He's in the player pool for me just because Sacramento Kings up and down fast-paced opportunities are going to be there. Like it's just one of those things where I just think you have to kind of consider it here. And then Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't mind him and his ceiling at 8.4. I prefer Anthony Edwards for what it's worth. But again, just a really good pace-up spot against the Kings. The Kings used to be this team that we were saying, hey, we need to always target last year. And I still think they're a team worth targeting at times and targeting the pace, but we got Washington and we got Indiana. Those are like the new teams that we talk about, right? It feels like the Kings side has lost a little bit of their luster, but against a team like the Timberwolves, where I think the game is going to be a bit competitive, this game could shoot out a little more than I think people think.
All right, AP, Sacramento, and the Timberwolves.
Yeah, so a couple things here. Pretty much in agreement with Mangone on the Wolves side. I mean, just like you look at their price tags. I mean, one, it's a pace-up spot. We get a matchup against De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox, the other guard that really pushes the pace in this league. I think it's a great spot for Anthony Edwards, 8.7, fair price tag. I also think, like, if you're running multiple builds, you really have to consider guys like Naz Reid and Kyle Anderson off the bench, just because if, like, this Timberwolves, they've been good, man. And the second unit, if they're playing good, they tend to get a little bit more run there. And Naz Reid, the guy, he's a fantasy point per minute beast. So 4.3, I'm not afraid of that price tag. Just keep in mind there is some minute risks, obviously, with him. But I like this matchup for him. On the Kings side, when you look at it, so with Keegan Murray still out, they're likely going to start Chris Duarte. That's what they've been doing. The problem is matchup-wise. I mean, this Wolves team is massive. Like Towns, Gobert, obviously, in there. That they've run some Naz Reid sets. I think they're going to have to play Trey Lyles good minutes here. We saw him play, 27, 28 minutes last game. The problem with him, and I don't think it's actually that big of a problem, but he's center only on DraftKings. I'm not too concerned about that, but at 3.3, if he plays 27, 28 minutes, could play more potentially if they do make that adjustment. You're going to want some Trey Lyles, I think, in your lineup. They're just, they're going to need him in there. So Trey Lyles, I think, is going to be a good value to consider. Chris Duarte, the other one. Do you make a question that might come up? Do you make a rule like one of Duarte or Lyles? I mean, I guess it would be an interesting rule if you think that's where the adjustment is, if they take Duarte out and put Lyles in. I don't hate that type of rule there. So that might be something I consider, but I'm not torn on you have to do that, especially if Chris Duarte is in the starting lineup. So De'Aaron Fox price tag is too high for me, 9.8K. And then Sabonis, it's a tough matchup for him. I hate playing Harrison Barnes, but they're going to have to play him 40 minutes? I don't know. I'm leaving him in my pool. It's gross. I don't want to do it, but he's 5K. You can play him small forward, power forward. I could see myself getting a little bit of Harry Barnes in there.
Definitely interested to see what the Optos say about Harrison Barnes' potential upside at 5K. The chat is ablaze, talking about the New York Jets offense, the fact that they got a first down. People are very happy about that. That is a big achievement.
JT, I'm impressed that you're calling plays from the sideline and doing a show at the same time. So that's really impressive by
you. It can't get any worse for them. It can't get any worse for them, right? If I throw out that old schoolyard play, right? Like, I go 3, you go left, you go right. I mean, what could that be? Could that be any worse than what the New York Football Jets are doing right now? Probably not. AP, the next game, another one with news that is pretty massive. And we've got a huge total here. Washington at Milwaukee. Milwaukee favored by 11.5, 245 implied total. Giannis is questionable on the Milwaukee side. Bilal Coulibaly is questionable on the Wizards side. Look, Giannis, if he gets ruled out, that was a midday downgrade. Now, it seems to me, just the first few weeks of the season, the midday downgrade hasn't meant quite as much as it has in past seasons. We've seen some of these guys actually suit up. But, of course, we're going to be looking at Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and my guy, Damian Lillard. What are your thoughts here, Washington and Milwaukee?
Yeah, so massive total. Obviously, the Bucks haven't been as good defensively, especially against opposing backcourts. So looking at like Tyus Jones, Jordan Poole. And then, typically in the past, midday downgrade typically meant it seemed like they're more likely to be out. I would always check. Like, it would make more sense if they're on a front end of a back-to-back against a Wizards team that they should be able to handle with the likes of Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, getting the start there. But I don't know. Again, this is why I'm not going to assume anything. I want to have my script ready to adjust. And so I'm going to have it built out if Giannis is out. And if that news comes late, I want to make sure I can adjust to make sure my lineups are optimal, because this matchup against the Wizards, you're going to want if Giannis is out, you're going to want Dame. You're going to probably want Brolo. You're probably going to want Bobby Portis. Like, you could make and Chris Middleton. Like, even if Middleton played what? He played 29 minutes against Boston. I actually played him in the game against Washington, knowing he was on a hard minutes cap. He played 23 minutes. I just knew the pace and the lack of defense in that game and how good he's been offensively when he's been in there. Middleton's been awesome when he's playing. The problem has been his minutes cap. I knew he could get there at that price tag. So I think you could arguably play 4 guys if Giannis is out. Dame, Middleton, Brolo, and Bobby Portis would be my preferred. That's why I think it's going to be just so important that we wait for this news. If Giannis is in, I don't care. Then I'll probably play Giannis. So the last time we had this matchup, I actually went 100% Giannis. He put up 73 DK points. I got a little lucky on that slate because Jokic got ejected, which obviously helped because Jokic was twice as owned as Giannis was. And I actually locked Jordan Poole because I like the matchup. Jordan Poole took 26 shots. And did he get there? No, he didn't. He took 21 shots last game. You know what I'm doing? And I know everyone hates it. They're going to be puking. I believe he was in the optimal lineup, or the winning lineup on the last slate was my play of the day. I am going to go back to Jordan Poole. He was 8% last slate. He was under 10% the slate before against the Bucks. I don't know. The guy's just going to shoot a ton. And the matchup, I like the matchup. It's a high total. He checks a lot of boxes, and he's under 7K. So those are kind of my rules around Jordan Poole. He's going to make for a good tournament play. Kyle Kuzma has been the guy, though, in this matchup, and 8-3 should keep his ownership down. Kyle Kuzma could absolutely smash, especially if Giannis is out. So I think if Giannis is out, this is a game that you could definitely stack up from both sides. But obviously, I would much prefer the Bucks side. Dame would be like an absolute lock, and Middleton, Brolo, and Portis. So, again, I think this is the most important game, news-wise, to keep an eye on the slate.
Travis, Washington and Milwaukee, Giannis questionable. Thoughts here on Jordan Poole, who did come through for us the other night. I played him as well. And then maybe if you want to expand upon the analogies you're making in chat here, just so I can figure out what the hell it is you're talking about.
I mean, it's just people always wonder why Zach Wilson and Boyle are playing quarterback like that. Why Boyle's in for Zach Wilson? Dude, you just don't want to watch the same dude do the same shit for 10 straight weeks. It's at some point, just give the Jets fans some hope, right? There's not many weeks left in the season. If I told you there's a guy out there, his name is JT Hayes, and he's pulled off the street and we're going to give him a shot, they'd say, that's better than what we've been watching with Zach Wilson, right? So it's about hope, right? Like maybe 2-3 weeks from now, they're going to be like, let's give Trevor Siemian a shot right before Rodgers is here, if he's able to even be here, because he said he's only coming back if they're in playoff contention. So my point being is no one wants to watch Zach Wilson throw again, right? They're at least getting a little bit of a break from it. So, but let's keep moving along, JT. Let's talk about this Washington game. And one thing about AP's play of the day last time, Jordan Poole, the last time out, he was at 16.5 points was his prop. Now it's 21.5. I mean, Vegas is definitely moving the needle too after what they saw. And what they saw was it's the Damian Lillard matchup, right? Damian Lillard does not play shit on defense. He does not do a damn thing, especially in November. I'm not expecting to do it in April or May either, but he is just awful defensively, and guards are getting attacked right now. Now, could the Bucks eventually figure it out? Yes, but they're not figuring it out right now, and I want to play guards against them. I think it just makes too much sense. I think Jordan Poole is in the conversation along with all of these other guys. Coulibaly in play, Tyus Jones, I think he's in the conversation. And another key factor is Giannis in or is he out? I really want to know that. That's going to be a big piece of news. And it's such a big piece of news, I think it's worth backloading for, especially if we get all these other early guys in. So, like I said, you're going to want Bobby Portis. You're going to want Middleton. Like, you're going to want exposure to these guys. There's just no way to get around it. So, like them in this spot. I also think Kyle Kuzma's upside is still worth considering. The guy's ceiling is very high, right? He's 8.3K. It does feel expensive, but again, this guy has a massive ceiling. If you look the last two games, 52.75, 62.25. And there's going to be possibly not a lot of defense being played, especially if Giannis is out. I think it could be even less defense. So I think overall, you have to like this game. You got to like some parts on the Washington side. And obviously, we need the Giannis news. The Giannis news is very important. And if Giannis is ruled in, and let's say he's ruled in and we get Haliburton ruled out, that'll open up a lot of value on the Pacers side of the ball. And it opens up the opportunity to do what? To spend for someone like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who no one is going to play. So that's definitely another like if-then statement that you should be thinking about on this. Like if we gain value on the Pacers, then we're able to spend for some studs. And one of those guys that would be completely overlooked if ruled in is Giannis. So that's kind of how I'm handling this game. Washington plays are in play. And obviously I need the Bucks news kind of like we need it with Haliburton.
Yeah, and one other guy that I'll mention just because of the proclivity of the Wizards to give up three-pointers is Malik Beasley at 4,800. Minutes cut a little bit thanks to Chris Middleton's minutes coming up, but this could be a matchup where if he takes 12 or 14 shots, potentially he can pay off that $4,800 price tag. We will move on to the next game. Before we do that, hit the like button. We are surprisingly low on the likes here. All of us here the day after Thanksgiving, bringing you the news, bringing you the NBA plays for the people. So go ahead and hit the like button for us. That helps us in so many ways. So many ways. AP, the next game, or excuse me, Travis, we'll stay with you the next game. Denver at Houston. AP talked about, and you talked about the prices on Sacramento. Well, same thing can be said here for the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is 12-9 on DraftKings. Denver favored by 3 here, 215.5. And Travis, the biggest thing that stands out here early in the season, one of the biggest things is how good of a coach Ime Udoka is and what he's brought to the Houston Rockets team. Anything you see here in Denver and Houston?
Yeah, so you brought up a good point with the pricing issue with the Nuggets. Like their prices have gone up, man. Like, and listen, I think Jokic at 12-9 can pay this price tag. Not discounting that at all, but I need value to do it, right? Like I need more value. So I'm waiting to see what value we get, to see if I have the opportunity to do that. Like if we get news that goes our way and then all of a sudden Jokic is popping up a bunch, don't be surprised. I think it's possible he could be, and I think he's in play. The one problem I have with just talking about the Nuggets in general is this is probably a slower paced game than they're normally used to. I do think they dictate the pace a little bit, but Houston likes to slow that pace down. It's what Udoka does as a coach. So I think that's one thing whenever I see teams against Houston, just like when I say, hey, we got a team against Washington I want to target. When I see a team against Houston, I kind of pause for a second and just look deeper into the matchup and the pricing to make sure they're okay to play. Again, Jokic raw points wise, this could be the best play on the slate. What we truly, truly need, though, is value. So that's the big point there. Next is Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, I think, is more in play on FanDuel than DraftKings, just because Aaron Gordon is someone that you have to play two forwards on FanDuel, so that's important. And the steals and blocks upside for Aaron Gordon is very important, and it helps his projection a little bit more over there. So Aaron Gordon, more in play over there. I like him, though, overall. Think he's fine. As we keep moving along, I want to talk about the Houston side of the ball a little bit. And the problem with Houston that we're running into is the price tags. I mean, I think Şengün at 8-2 and against a team that doesn't play a lot of defense, I think that's encouraging. I do think Şengün's floor is a little concerning against Jokic. He could get into some foul trouble at times. They could also go to smaller lineups if they really feel like they need to, especially they might just match Şengün up against Jokic a little bit more and then pull Şengün off the court when they do the Aaron Gordon lineup and go more Jabari Smith. So that's something kind of worth calling out. So I think Şengün's fine, but not saying he's like the greatest play on the slate. I think Fred VanVleet at 8-1 is kind of an interesting tournament play that you could make a case for. Going to be in a very up-tempo game. I think he has the ability to get you, 50 to 55 DK points for that ceiling that you're looking for at that 8K price tag. So Fred VanVleet, if I happen to run my teams and I land on him, great. I'm certainly interested, but not a priority play. More of one of those contrarian, like below 10% guys that might fall onto your team that has a ceiling to get there. Not excited about Jalen Green. I know he's a lot cheaper. I just think he's such a volatile player. You could make a matchup that the upside is there in the matchup against the Nuggets because they don't play a lot of defense. But I'll admit there's some bias there with Jalen Green. Definitely some bias with Dylan Brooks. I just don't love him in general. He is 5.1K. I won't pull him out of the pool, but again, not someone I'm prioritizing in my single entry 3-max stuff. I don't think he makes that much sense there. If we're lacking some value on this slate, I know the minutes aren't there, but you can make a case that 20 minutes against the Denver Nuggets is better than 20 minutes against the Miami Heat, right? They're just way more valuable, same like the Wizards and the Pacers. Tari Eason should not be completely ignored, especially with those lineups he's going to be able to go up against with Jokic off the court. I just think if you need value, Tari Eason isn't the craziest guy to take a chance on as a value play.
Tari Eason at 4,200 AP. Şengün has had a couple of big games against the Denver Nuggets, 40-some and 50-some fantasy points. You see anything particularly interesting, Denver and Houston?
Yeah, I mean, these slates where we have Jokic, and if we have value to make him work, I think you always have to consider him. The things I've noticed is the big price tag, and I just don't think the projections are high enough on him. He's having to do everything right now. I do think, and again, this has nothing to do with being against the Nuggets, but with how good the Rockets have been playing, and they're at home. It's a big game. They're going to be up for this game. I think there's value in the Rockets side. And so Jokic is just going to have to do everything. He's already put up an 84 piece on this team. So it really comes down to value. Is there enough value to make it work from an opportunity cost standpoint? And if you go double center, if Trey Lyles hits that run that we're talking about, I think you can make it work. And actually, one play I failed to mention in the Pistons game when we're talking about that one is Isaiah Livers. This is a guy that they really liked last year. He's a flat 3K. We saw him play 22 minutes off the bench last time out against the Nuggets. He's 1 for 7 from the field. That's strong usage rate, 12 DK points, but he played 22 minutes. Could he play 25 in an up-pace matchup against the Pacers? And could he get there at a flat 3K? I could. And that's, if you go that type of route, you can make a Jokic build work. So it really comes down to the rest of the slate. Is there value? And actually, you potentially have the mid-range plays too to make it work. The Chris Middleton, the Buddy Hield, Caleb Martin that I talked about. So this feels like a slate that you could definitely make that work. And I probably just gave out that build, or at least the build path to make it work right there. And that's fine. That's what we do. From a minute standpoint And I don't mind the matchup, but Fred VanVleet, I mean, the guy's just playing like 40 minutes a game. You could see him being kind of a true leader for this team too, really wanting Jalen Green to get involved. We saw that last game against Memphis. Jalen Green force-feeding him the ball, 26 shots, and they need it. Jalen Green's a bucket. They need him to get going. It's encouraging what we saw, massive usage rate. He's always been raw scoring dependent, so you need those raw points. I put him up there in that, again, different players, but that Jordan Poole bucket. You need the actual points, the raw points there for those guys to hit. So I think they're great tournament plays. That's how I'm handling it. And then Şengün, mini Jokic in tournaments, yes, tough matchup here, but against big Jokic, Şengün is going to be in my player pool. Dylan Brooks, I can't get there. I'm not going to be playing any Dylan Brooks.
All right, no Dylan Brooks for AP. We've got just 2 games left, so let's get that like up to 150. That'll give us about half the number of viewers that we have. We'll stick with you, AP. The Spurs heading into Golden State. No real injury news in this game. The Draymond Green suspension has 1 game left on it. I guess Gary Payton II is now questionable for the Warriors, but fully healthy Spurs team, pretty much a fully healthy Warriors team. Some of these Warriors prices look a little bit too cheap, but man, it's been a tough way to go if you've been rostering Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson. Looks like Thompson coming out of it a little bit, but the Spurs are a good matchup. Who do you like here, Spurs and Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those games where you want players in your pool. You want to kind of pick and choose different pieces from this game in your multi-entry formats. Victor Wembanyama, always going to be a tournament play. Zach Collins, the price is up. But if you get this kind of mid-tier range that is nuking, Zach Collins has showed he has upside in the right matchups. I think bigs or centers against this Warriors team has been a pretty profitable route on the season. So 2 guys that you could consider. Outside of them, I don't trust like the backcourt and wing rotation from the Spurs. Keldon Johnson, he's had his moments this year too. You could go there. But for the Warriors, it's going to be a pace-up matchup. Steph Curry, I think, is going to be a tournament play to consider tonight. We haven't seen that ceiling, but this is going to be one of the best matchups that he sees. And if the Spurs can keep it within 15 points, we should get good minutes from Stephen Curry. So I think he's going to be someone that I'm considering in tournaments. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say on Chris Paul. I don't know if it's a great matchup for point guards against the Spurs. With the pace that they play, I think it's a matchup too where Jeremy Shohan, he could get picked off by Paul. He struggled with turnovers on the season, so could be a matchup where Chris Paul gets the steals, blocks, and then has the combination with the assists and maybe a few raw points there to go with it for him to pay off that 7.2K price tag. So I like Curry in tournaments. I mean, Klay and Wiggins. I don't like it. They're okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm really curious to see where Mangone's at in this game.
It is tough to play those guys, Travis, but this is a good bounce back spot for the Warriors after they got basically taken apart by the Suns and Scott Foster, who ejected Chris Paul once again. So perhaps the bounce back here for Paul, for Stephen Curry, and for these Warriors. What do you think?
Yeah, and before I dive into that, JT, if Bobby says the likes need to be given up, like we got to get them up, right? I don't even know what they're at, but we got to get them up. So if there's viewers that I don't even know who they are saying it, then there's something wrong. So guys, get those likes up. JT would appreciate it. We want to get out those plays of the day. I want to jump on the plane to head over to France for the Eiffel Tower play of the day. But I agree, AP. I think Chris Paul is in the conversation today. I mean, 7-2 feels like a tag that you're just like, man, do I really pay that tag here? But I'm telling you, the ceiling is there, and the matchup is too good. I haven't pulled the flow chart yet. We got some time, but I believe Chris Paul's got to be on the flow chart, right? I mean, the San Antonio Spurs matchup is a really good one to target, unless something has changed with Victor Wembanyama there, but I do not think that's the case. And Chris Paul is definitely someone that I think you got to play. So 7.2K, I'm interested in him. Steph Curry, 9.7. He has a ceiling still at the price, but the floor is just so bad. For me, he's got to be very low owned, and he will be low owned, but right now, I think what's going to happen is I think we're going to gain some value at some point during the slate. There's just no reason to consider someone like Curry for me, at least. So I'm not that interested. If for some reason he's in your pool and, you happen to fall on it in MME, I wouldn't tell you to pull him out of your pool, right? When I had a big hit last year, if I would have pulled my 5% Steph Curry out of my teams, I wouldn't have won like 25K. So I'll happily leave him in if he falls. But like I said, not a priority on like a single entry or 3-max team. But as we keep moving along, I think the Spurs are tough to roster here at these price tags. The only one I'm really considering is Victor Wembanyama at 8.8. And it's, again, if I happen to fall on him, but that's it. And I'm not really looking to get that much exposure to him. So for me, it's really just Chris Paul on this Warrior side of the ball. Maybe some Andrew Wiggins at 5.6. I feel like I'm chasing it a little bit, but I do think he has a pretty nice ceiling for a 5.6K player. And this matchup against the Spurs is one that fast-paced game. You could see him just start to pop off, and if the shots fall, he's going to keep pulling the shot. So that's really it for me, though. Not a game I'm overexposed on. I'd say I'm more under the field on this game.
All right, under the field on the Warriors and Spurs. This is the last game that we are going to talk about. Travis, I'll stay with you. The Pelicans at the Clippers. Norm Powell is questionable for the Clippers. Brandon Boston is out for the Clippers. And then on the Pelicans side, Trey McCollum remains out, as do Trey Murphy and Matt Ryan. It looks like for the first time in a couple of seasons that Jonas Valanciunas is actually starting to play big minutes regularly. He's just 6,800 in this matchup. What are your thoughts on him and any others?
Listen, JT, there's certain guys that I have a bias against, and Valanciunas is one of them. He is the fake Travis Kelce. He is just a fraud. I am not a Valanciunas guy. Typically, whenever I get exposure to him, I lower the projection, and then I say, if I'm getting some then there's a real reason. So that's kind of what I do with him. It is what it is. I'm not big on Valanciunas, though. And I think center's a little bit deeper today. And as I say center's deeper, I'm going to mention Daniel Tice. Listen, I'm not saying Daniel Tice is this, like, stone-cold lock, but the guy has always been a good fantasy point-per-minute producer, kind of like Tari Eason. And if we are struggling for value, possibly on the slate, Daniel Tice at that price tag, and if you tell me Daniel Tice is going to go out there and get 20 minutes for 3.6K, I don't see how he doesn't get you at least 20 DK points. And for 3.6, I'll take 20. And he's been crushing it. He's been doing way more than 20. So I'm in on Daniel Tice. I think he's a good value on this slate. I think Jonas Valanciunas' defense is trash too. Not saying he'll be matched up against him all game, but I think he'll get some opportunities against him. So I like this spot. I think it's a good spot for Daniel Tice. And hey, he's got the opportunity to catch rebounds for Russell Westbrook. And listen, JT, if you were in there with Russell Westbrook, I'd be betting your overs on rebounds for the day. So it's just Russell Westbrook throws up a bunch of bricks. So I'm definitely in on Daniel Tice as a value play. Harden at 8.1, I'm not dying to get to. Kawhi at his price, I mean, do I want to play Kawhi Leonard at 8.1? Is there a ceiling there? Yeah, maybe, but I think there's better plays in that 8K range. I've talked about a bunch, and at some point you got to make some cuts, right? So I don't think I'm taking any of the spend-up Clippers. I think it's really just looking at Daniel Tice. And then on the Pelicans side of the ball, a lot of these guys are priced up. Like Dyson Daniels is now 5.9. Jordan Hawkins is 5.6. Like all these guys' price tags are they're too high, where I think it's really Daniel Tice or bust for me in this Clippers game.
Daniel Tice or bust for Travis AP, Pelicans and Clippers. And anyone who's ever seen me play basketball knows that you would definitely be better off taking any under that existed. AP, what are your thoughts here?
I guess, man, the one difference I have with Mangone, like I have Daniel Tice in my player pool, but I just don't know. Like it was, 2 games against the Spurs. Can we trust that rotation? I'm a little hesitant, a little cautious there.
I'll give you one selling point of why
I do like the Russ selling point. I will say that. Like I like that pair between those guys, them running the second unit. I'm with you there. And he's in my player pool. What's the other selling point?
I saw a quote the other day. Sometimes I do this. I just it'll be late at night. I'm scrolling Twitter and I'm like, I don't want to read this shit right now, but I know this is valuable. So let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. But I saw a quote from Tyronn Lue. And the quote basically said that he understands that, yeah, I found it here. I'll dig into it, but basically I'll summarize the quote for you and I'll read it while you're giving your breakdown of the game. He said, "We've tried to go small with this team and it just doesn't work. Like, it just hasn't worked, and they've tried for years and years and years. And I think in playoff matchups, it makes sense. But overall, I think Ty Lue wants to just go big going forward. And if he wants to go big going forward, there's a reason they traded for Daniel Tice, right? There's a reason because they don't have any other big men. They can't go big because Zubac can't play 48 minutes. That's why they brought him in there. So I'm pretty much sold on playing some Daniel Tice. Now, if we gain more value like the Pacers and all these other guys, yes, I might not be sold on playing Daniel Tice more, but based on that quote, which as you break down the game, I'll read through a little bit more because I just found it, but I think it's a good play, and I think they're really committing to this.
Daniel Tice is going to be, at least the projections before the show, looks like he's going to be pretty highly owned.
Daniel Tice is?
Yeah.
I don't believe it. For what?
Okay.
I think I would take Trey Lyles over it if I'm being honest. But
what is his ownership you're seeing, JT? I think people are going Trey Lyles over him too. I know we didn't talk about him much, but I didn't really buy the Trey Lyles stuff as much for what it's worth.
My case on Trey Lyles is more a bet on the matchup that they're going to need. He's what, 6'9", 6'10", something like that. Duarte, he's a guard basically. Filling that gap. They've gone small with Keegan Murray out, who's their traditional power forward. I just think, again, my bet was matchup wise, it makes more sense to get Lyles in there. But
AP, so here's like the quote. So they asked about the Russell. They stopped playing Bones, right? Because they wanted to play more big because you can't play Bones and Russell Westbrook together because it's a disaster. She said, yeah, just having someone who is 6'7", who can defend 1 through 4, which is Russell Westbrook, can rebound the basketball, like you said, with Bones and Russ. It's just a small combination. You can see they're starting a 7'5" 4-man, which was the Spurs game. To be fair, we learned our lesson last couple 2 to 3 years of playing small and how it hasn't worked. So we just try to stay away from that as much as possible. Now, if the other team is going to go small, sure, you could make a case that if they go small, that won't happen. But they've been playing Valanciunas more, and I believe they will. So I don't know. I just think they're going to commit.
You know what else? So just looking this up. So recently, the Kings played the Pelicans. JaVale McGee in 12 minutes put up 23 DK points. So
yeah,
man, I'm going to keep him in the pool just for my guy Mangone. I'll keep him in the pool. But
last time you said that, AP, Al Horford dropped 40 DK points.
Exactly, and that's what I do. I listen to my guys. But I'm not. So this is just another kind of rule spot with the Clippers. Big three: Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. I think the price tags are now a bit more fair. I think for a little bit there, they dipped into the high sevens, like 7.8K range, which then was a little bit different. But now it's one max of those three. So I don't think I'm going to have a ton of ownership in this game, but I could have a Harden, a Paul George, or Kawhi Leonard fall into a few lineups.
All right. We got to 110 likes. AP, it's the holiday season. What are your thoughts? Are we giving out the plays of the day?
Yeah, we'll give out the plays of the day. It's fine. It's the holidays. Smaller crowd, but that's fine. Maybe maybe we'll keep all the money for ourselves tonight.
All right, fair enough. Travis, I'm still looking at my choices here, wondering who is going to be thinking again about how we might not have much value on this slate, depending on what happens with Halliburton. So we'll start with you. The sweet Travis. Where is that? We don't have the candy image anymore. It was so beautiful. The sweet Travis play of the day.
Yeah, the sweet Travis play of the day. It's going to be simple. I just went on a long rant, JT. Okay, yeah. I want to make sure you guys. I want to spread the wealth. It's the holiday season coming up. We're going with Daniel Tice. Daniel Tice is the guy. He's 3.6K, elite value on the slate. I'm in on him. We're taking him. He's going to get 20-plus minutes and get you over 20 DK points, which I'm fine with because value is hard to find these days.
All right, Daniel Tice, the sweet Travis play of the day. AP, the gentleman's play of the day. We've got some options here that I think that you were liking as we've gone on the show, but who is it going to be?
Yeah, I got to go with the guy. I just think he's going to fall under the radar a little bit due to the price tag. I love the game. Obviously Wizards Bucks, and no, it's not Jordan Poole. It's Kyle Kuzma. I think the elevated 8.3 price tag is going to keep the ownership down. He did the last time in this matchup. He literally did most of his work in the second half, and so he got off to a very, very, very slow start. But I think he still put up over 50 DK points. I think he gets us 50 plus again tonight. Kyle Kuzma, my play of the day.
Kyle Kuzma and Daniel Tice. And I'm looking at this. There's no one that I particularly love here in terms of the higher price plays. And so I think it's more of a steady build here. Maybe I forget the word I'm looking for, but basically not where I want to go Tice and Lyles, but maybe if I want to take one of those guys, and I do like this guy. I know that Travis was not on him, and that's okay. I think it's a bounce back spot here in a very good matchup for a very young athletic kid, Osar Thompson, coming out of the Overtime Elite Academy right here in Atlanta. So maybe I have a little bit of a hometown bias for Osar Thompson at 6,800 on DraftKings. Travis, AP, last final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, final thoughts. If you have not used the code GIBLETS44, what are you doing, right? 44% off, great time to buy. Also, college football tomorrow, NFL coming up this weekend. Listen, I kind of like these like gross, muddier NFL slates, and I haven't dug deep enough into this NFL slate, but I think this is a really muddied up NFL slate. I think it's going to be a fun time. So I'm excited to dive in deeper with it tomorrow. Excited to dive into the college football streets again tomorrow too. So it's going to be a fun weekend. You do not want to miss out. And of course, we got Showdown content coming in. Listen, it don't stop, right? We're going to have tons of stuff going on during the month of December. It gets absolutely wild. Then we have the NFL playoffs. And then, of course, we'll have the pitchers and catchers returning that I know JT gets excited.
Very much so. I didn't even see the Packers helmet behind you. Congrats on a big win on Thanksgiving for the Green Bay Packers. AP, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think you want to prioritize waiting for the news. So if it's a situation where you have to fade the 7:30 Eastern games, I think I could sign off on that. I will say, like, if I played one piece, it would be Caleb Martin, assuming he gets a start there. I would consider Jimmy Butler as well, but I do think waiting for the Giannis and Halliburton news, and then not only waiting for that news, but confirming the starting lineups specifically for the Pacers is basically that. Doing that is more valuable than playing some of these 7:30 players.
All right, that'll wrap it up for us on this day after Thanksgiving. Thank you all for joining us. Good luck in your contests for Travis and AP. I'm JT Hayes.